Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, August 24th, and just getting ready to do our morning analysis here. And let's take a look. This is S&P 500 hourly chart. So, yeah, I mean, nice bullish day yesterday. We had some good trading in the room. Mostly actually traded RTY. Just price action gave a little bit cleaner opportunities. There was some nice price action on the S&P as well. Um, but let's just see what's sort of left over. So actually, let's zoom out a little bit more, just to, again, get our bearings. 8-hour chart, this was that big old consolidation we were stuck in. We probed it a little bit low, touched onto this high volume node that was really from more of like a daily perspective from all this consolidation. And really nice rejection off of that. There's still some leftover sort of naked levels down here, but they're pretty minor levels. Not really too concerned about them. I think this stuff's pretty much dealt with at this point. I'm just going to clean up this chart a little bit because some of these things down here are less than relevant, I guess is a good way to put it. Same thing here. I don't know that this is really important anymore. And yeah, so, really, we had this nice low, which pushed us up, honestly, really to the high here. I mean, that's ultimately what happened. This is really just some chop along the way. And if we look at this a little bit more on the daily, that's a bit more clear. You can see the candles don't change color here on my control candle script. On the daily, basically just means we never got to close below the range of previous candles. We always closed back up within range. So the bears throughout all that chop were never able to really take over control. So this is really our last relevant low, our last relevant high. We retraced into the move, which is what we're looking for, and then moved on up because the previous one was here, right? It was this high, this low, and yeah. So now we're looking to continue to make new highs. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. What we don't want to really see happen is just a rejection down in. So, what we don't want is to get this, and then like we try to make a new high and just fall right back into this range. Not that it's necessarily the worst thing in the world, but ideally we kind of hold above this range a little bit and maybe develop a little bit of price action up here, build some volume up here, which shows that those prices are being accepted, and then we can sort of continue on higher. I mean, that's kind of what happened here, right? We had this swing low, swing high, swing low, and then we broke the high, and then all this price action up here is basically price acceptance above this high, right? It's showing that price is being accepted, positions are being accumulated above that high, and then we kind of continue to push higher. So, seeing something similar up here would be kind of cool. That would be something nice to see, right? If we just kind of chop around up here a little bit. That's been sort of the name of the game, right? Low, high, chop around, push up, chop around, push up, right? So we'll just kind of see how this all plays out. Again, being at all-time highs is always a little bit tricky. We don't have resistance overhead to use as targets or anything like that. Some people like to use Fibonacci's and stuff like that. That's totally fine. I don't use a lot of Fibonacci myself, but that's just a personal decision. I don't see anything wrong with it. And yeah, so zooming in a little bit more, let's just take a look at some of our volume distribution. You can see we had all this volume here. There was a little bit of stalling underneath it. That's what this consolidation here was. It was just stalling underneath this volume cluster, and then we pushed above, kind of a retest a little bit of the top of that cluster, because if you look at this thing, it's really kind of like this, right? So you can see we stalled underneath it, retested above it, and then aggressive buying pushing us up here. This is the 4-hour chart. Okay, aggressive buying pushing us up. So that's what happened there. Now I don't know if there's anything super relevant. I mean, price moved pretty quickly, and like there wasn't, like I said, for my trading style, there wasn't a tremendous amount of opportunity on the S&P. There was like one or two good trades on the S&P, and you can see again, here's the volume that came in as we stalled underneath this. And by the way, my experience is if you have a relevant level like this here, and then you start to see price action and volume accumulate just below that level, a lot of times it's like mustering up the power to push through it, right? We're absorbing all those passive sellers that might be there and sort of getting ready to push up through. So if you're looking to trade off of a level and then you see this sort of price flagging right underneath it, and especially if the lows are ascending, proceed with caution, right? Kind of moral of the story there. And then, yeah, a little bit of volume here. So we can look a little bit more closely at that also on a smaller time frame, but I like this little bit of volume here. It's a nice level there at 44.54. And then, of course, we're forming this little top here, right? Building volume up above the previous high. Not to say that we can't dip down into it. For instance, we may dip down, test this level, or test this level. It's possible, meaning we could do something like this. Oopsie. Do something here and bounce. Or could do something here and bounce, right? Both those are total possibilities to be aware of. Below this level here at around 44.37, just that sort of overall range, 44.37 down to, 44, maybe 27, right? We'll call it that sort of 10-point span there. Not a lot of price action. We have this whole sort of bottoming thing down here, right? This big chunk of volume down here as we sort of bottomed out and then formed our reversal. So, and I'm not sure that that's going to really need to get tested at this point, but can't say for certain. Zooming in a bit more, we can see a little bit more clearly some of the price action that occurred here. Get my volume back on here. So, just starting here, for instance, this was pre-market volume, pretty low, but you can see we kind of blasted through it, came back, sort of tested it from the top side, pushed on up. Really, we're testing a lot of this stuff down here too, because there's this volume here. It's not significant. I wouldn't have traded off it. You can see like the volume sort of begins about here, this last little push down before the push up. And you can see we kind of came down and tested that sort of area. Being that's not a very pronounced volume cluster, I wouldn't expect a very precise reaction to it. That's why I don't like to trade off those things. And then we have this little retracement in here, which again created a bunch of volume. And we sort of just blasted up through that. So, notice I have this dotted line here at 44.0850, and you can't really see anything here on the hourly, but I'm going to show you when we get down to like a 5-minute chart, you'll see that. And that's basically price reacting to getting through all of this volume. But the buyers were so strong, we just blasted on through. Again, because we blasted on through, there is a possibility that if we come down here and test this, that we'll get a little reaction off that level as well. So I kept that level there, 44.08, even though it's a pretty minor level. And then, again, continuing on with our volume, if we look at it, here, let me get rid of some of these indicators at the bottom. We don't need those right now. And so again, we have all this high volume here. And so I've got my line at 44.3775. The high volume node, the point of control there is 44.36. So if you want to try and grab it right off the point of control, there's a bunch of volume there. The tricky thing with a spot like this that I don't like, and why I probably would be hesitant to trade long off this level, is the price action's not very clean. Maybe when we get down to a lower time frame, it'll be cleaner, but sort of like where's the low? And like is it this low right here, or is it some of these lows right here? Because you can see the volume, sort of begins there, but doesn't really get high volume to here. It's just not the cleanest. It's just not the cleanest high volume node or volume cluster, and so not really something that I would want to trade off of personally. This one's a little bit cleaner, but the volume is pretty light compared to this. And, if we're going to come down here, there's a chance we might just get a small reaction off this area and then come down and test this general area. So I do think it's probable that we test this general area. I do think it's probable that we come down here and then we move back up. It's just not a clean area to like where do you want to put your risk against, I guess, is sort of the issue there for me. So it's just not really like it's not like an A+ trade setup. Let's zoom in a little bit more to the 15-minute. Maybe that'll offer some clarity. And I mean, just not really what we see now is we have kind of a double distribution within there. So we have basically this volume, price pushed up out of it, retested, pushed up again, kind of chopped around, and then sort of continued to move up. So, makes it a little tricky, honestly. Yeah, it makes it a little tricky. Kind of made that cluster retest. Yeah, I mean, I'd maybe put my stop down there under this low here. That would maybe be if I was going to do something there, I think that's probably what it would look like, would be that. But I feel like if you're going to put your stop there, you almost might as well put it under this low here and just play it safe. It's just a tricky area. It's just a really tricky area. Again, not the cleanest. And so it's sort of like, I guess in my opinion, like a proceed with caution area. I'm going to do a double zone here just to kind of remind myself that it's a little bit of a funky spot. And again, I'm not even sure that we'll come down that low. I mean, this is a very pronounced volume cluster here. We could just react right off of this thing. And look at the aggressive buying that came off of this cluster compared to the buying off of here. So off of here, I mean, the buyers came in strong, right? Definitely like some single time frame buying here. Like none of these lows were breached at all. But there's also no real like major imbalance, meaning if we look at this candle here, we see that the high of the previous candle and the low of the following candle, there's no overlap. Like they don't touch. And it's that sort of imbalance in there, right? This right here, that sort of imbalance in there. When we see that kind of aggressive buying, it makes me a little bit more confident to take a trade off a level like this. So looking at that, I actually do like this level a little bit. And then the other thing about this level that I like is it's a decent spot to grab some risk against, right? Because we can risk off this low here. And so a trade off of here, would offer us pretty decent risk, for a larger sort of intraday trade. It would be about a 9.5 point risk, depending on where your entry is and where you want to put your stop, how tight you want to put it, that kind of stuff, right? That's all personal preference. So yeah, if we do kind of, again, seeing this aggressive buying, seeing this imbalance, it's not unrealistic to think that we might come down, mitigate some of this imbalance, test this level. This is a very naked level in here. So testing this and then moving up again from there would be something kind of interesting. So that level's at 44.54. That's sort of the level that I'm looking at in there. And then, of course, like I said, we're forming this little toppy price action here. Similar thing here. I kind of, there was a bunch of volume here on the 5-minute. I put this in as a sort of a paper trade here, just to see if we touched it in the overnight. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this now because sometimes we touch those things in the overnight. We get a nice little reaction. But that was just a paper trade. I don't want to do it in my live account. But same idea. I mean, look at this volume that accumulated here, and then this really aggressive buying up from there. So we had like this bit of volume here, which is not very significant, and then sort of push up, retested sort of this cluster here, and then again, just really aggressive buying basically right out of the gate yesterday. So from the NASDAQ standpoint, looking at something over here would be kind of interesting too. If we just kind of look at it all as one big chunk, we had this move up, consolidation, aggressive move up. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of some of these old lines here. It's not all relevant anymore. So again, looking at this and saying, hey, maybe, there could be something interesting about a trade in here. Offers us, again, really nice risk. if we look at this. I mean, we can do about 10 points of risk on the NASDAQ, which on the NQ, that's not a lot of risk at all. So that's pretty slick. I like that. You can see we're kind of testing. Just get this cleaner on here. So all this volume right here, we're just sort of testing this right now. Just testing that out right now. We'll see if that holds. I'm not convinced that that's going to hold. I think it would make a lot of sense for us to come back down, mitigate this very aggressive buying imbalance. Same thing here on the ES, right? Very aggressive buying imbalance to come down because this is our opening candle and just really bursted right out of the gate there. So, and then let's just take a look at RTY, because RTY has been, I mean, we're still in the sideways channel here, right? And coming right up to the larger time frame auction point of control. Just something we definitely want to be aware of. See that? Coming right up to that point of control. And you can see, and this is an area where we might expect some chop, right? We chop around, we react, we chop around, we react, right? So just be cautious going long into this area. Not to say that you can't get a good trade, but it might get a little choppy in there. There's a lot of volume in there. There's a lot of sellers, and we just might need to get through that. So again, that's why I have so many levels on my RTY chart, and I'm going to remove some of these, or at least move them to make them more up to date to the current sort of action, right? You can see, like, this is a level from here, but see how it's still current over here too, right? So this I don't really care about. This I don't really care about. This one I don't really care about. Just clean this up a little bit. So there's volume here. There's volume here. There's volume up here. So all the stuff we want to be aware of. The one thing I do want to remember to show you just before we sort of leave here that I mentioned previously, again, see I have this line here. There's this aggressive buying getting through this consolidation. And I have this line here, and you don't really see it on the hourly. And it's just a very minor level you see here on the 5-minute. This is the reaction trying to get through the volumes from all of this, right? That's basically what that is. It's just price trying to get through all of that. There's just so many little volume clusters in here. See it? So again, I wouldn't have traded off any of this because it's just not clean at all. But this was the area that price decided to kind of stall at, create a small rotation, a small volume cluster in here. Okay, small volume cluster, nothing really clean or that I would want to trade off of, but it's there, and it's something that might be good to just be aware of as we're looking at all this stuff. I don't believe price is going to come down and do anything really significant there, but it's there. I mean, that's sort of the high volume node. It does look like it got a little bit tested, right? If you look at this, oof, I gotta find it on the 1-minute chart. Zoom, 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 zoom. Here we go. Right. It to me, it looks a little bit tested. I'll probably remove this level actually, because we see we came up above, tested down, and then kind of rocketed up there. So yeah, I'm not gonna worry about this anymore. But that's what that's from. It just sort of was a residual level on my chart. Same thing here, right? Little consolidation, pushed up, tested it perfectly, aggressive push up again. Okay, so that's kind of all I got for today. Looking at ES, which is my sort of main frame of reference and main chart that I trade off of, I think the most interesting level here is 44.54. That's the most interesting level. It's basically the pre-market consolidation that then led to the aggressive push up throughout the day yesterday. So that would be a level that I'm interested in there. If you want to join us in the trade room, dpmtrades.com. We do have free access to our chat room. Just click on the community tab on the website. That'll give you a link to the Discord server, and you just have to send us your username. We do require that. It just helps us to keep out scammers and spammers. We have a nice small kind of closed community But we do allow free access to it for people that are trying to learn how to trade futures and just want to have a community to do it along with without having to spend an arm and a leg. So you can join us there at dpmtrades.com. Click on community, join the free server. Other than that, I'll check in with you guys hopefully tomorrow for some pre-market analysis, and I hope you have a great trading day.